And you're good.
All right. Well, I want to welcome to the Keeping Your Head in the Clouds but Your Feet on the Ground. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through some career path logic. I want you to think about it a little bit. And what I want you to think about right now is what is your, and I'm going to use the term dream job. To each one of us, it's something a little different. For one person, it may be going after that pen test position. For somebody else, it may be something in management. What I will tell you, though, is no matter what you do, there's work involved in getting to that dream job. And I learned a long time ago that if you fail to plan, that's a plan to fail. And what I would suggest to you today is that right now, during this time period, I want you to put on that idea of a dream. What do I want to do in the future? How can I mentor other people in the future and help them to understand what they want to do? With that, it's an uphill battle to get education. It's an uphill battle to try to seek out the type of education that you're going to need for that dream job. You need mentors. And I think that during those uphill battles, you learn, it's a journey, right? It's not just a destination. It's a journey. You can really enjoy information security. I have for the past 17 years. I've really enjoyed it. But I've only enjoyed it because I learned that every situation that's unique, the situations themselves, they will pass. But it's the relationships that you build, it's the networking that you have, it's the opportunities that you take in during those events, during that journey, that really build a career. So, with that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I see is what's happened in my life, just briefly. Now, I'm going to tell you I'm just a good old country boy from Breakout, Kentucky, right? I just happened to fall into this job at this global corporation. And it just happened, right? I walked in, they gave me, no. We all know that's not what happens. I had a dream when I was back in Berea. I can remember in high school, I hadn't even seen a computer before. But on one of my career planning things, I wrote down, I want to learn about electronics. I want to learn about computers. And I got a call, and they said, hey, I had been laid off the job I was working. I got a call that said, hey, come to Louisville, Kentucky. So I left my little hometown, my safety area, and I moved up here, and I got a degree in computer engineering. And I thought, man, if I can just get a job being a technician at a big company, maybe that'll give me an opportunity. And I thought, that's what I'll try to do. So I set that goal. Well, I get bored real quick. If you know me at all, you'll find out that I get bored really quickly. Being at the computer technician level was great. But then I wanted to expand. I wanted to set up facilities. I wanted to set up networks. I wanted to do the types of things that helped me expand the company I was working with. So I literally, for 3 years, I traveled on the road, setting up facilities. Guess what? If you've ever worked on traveling on the road for 3 years, that gets old. And if you don't believe me, I got some friends in the back that can testify to that one. The point I want to make to you is, while I was out there traveling on the road, I was building my career. I was thinking, what do I need to know about in order to make the next level, the next step? I wanted to go into management. I didn't want to go into just any management. I wanted to go into information security. I had actually applied for a position in physical security, and my management team, being mentors to me, created a position for me knowing my background and said, you created all these holes. Now we want you to figure out how to fix all of them. Now, in 2002, that's about when that started. And what I'll tell you is they sent me to training. I got some training. I immediately came back to Louisville and started working with a group of people who worked in information security to form the ISSA chapter here locally. I remember giving the first $20 during a meeting and saying, here, let's get this thing started. And the point I want to drive to you is I did it for selfish reasons. I wanted to learn from other people. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you give back. Now, when I start thinking about all the different experiences I've had as a result of being with the ISSA, I actually helped start the IC² chapter here. I actually helped work with, at one time, an OWASP chapter. I'm definitely a member of InfoGuard. I'm involved in the community. What I suggest to you is if you have a plan to be in the InfoSec career field, get involved with these. If you fail to reach out beyond the company you work for today, don't blame your company for not promoting you. It's up to you to get your own education. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. What I will tell you is after 3 decades of a career with the company that I'm at, I have the opportunity to retire. And I'm retiring on my own, it's my choice. And when I retire, I can go out and get another job pretty quickly. It should be pretty easy. Well, guess what? That's not by accident. I put myself out there, and what I'm encouraging you to do is think about what are you doing today to help yourself move towards that next job, that next career goal that you have. And I'm going to show you some pictures of some things that we may overlook sometimes. When you think about technology and you're saying, well, I don't know what I need to study, I don't know what I need to do. The vehicle here is an Uber vehicle. Does anybody know what this vehicle represents?
Automated driverless system.
There we go. It's autonomous. Okay? Well, guess what? That didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Not like this, right? Uber is investing in the neighborhood of $7.5 billion into this. Why? Why would you invest into that?
You don't have drivers now.
Yeah, guess what? There's people that can't drive today.
It's their highest cost. Really.
It's for some companies, it's a high cost. The company I happen to work for, we have trouble finding drivers. We're going to replace drivers. When you look at the second picture up here, it's a gentleman that's working in Washington, D.C. to get legislation passed so that we can have, quote unquote, autonomous vehicles driving on the interstate next to you when you're on vacation. I want you to think about that. Let that soak in. We can't get drivers. We're going to take care of business in a different way. That's not what we're used to. I am bringing up some things that UPS is doing, and I want you to understand that I've seen changes over the past 34 years that you can't even imagine. I remember us using machines with tubes in them, and now we're the first company to have an authorized by the FAA. It's basically a drone airline. And we're already using this. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about it's already been going on. In fact, we got into this a few years ago. We started delivering blood supplies to remote parts of the world to help out in third world countries before we did this. So, I have some inside track on some of this, right? The company you work at may or may not, but you're in a room with peers that may know some of this stuff. You can dream for a security job, but you need to have some foundation, and that's why I'm talking about keeping your feet on the ground. You need to do some research. You need to understand what's going on with it a little bit. The picture right in the middle is a warehouse. How many employees do you see in the warehouse? Do you know what that is? It's an Amazon fulfillment center that's automated. Today, Amazon has over 100,000 robotic workers that go and pick up devices. When I say devices, packages. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. How many of you, I want to see a raised hand here, how many of you have received a package from Amazon? Why is that? Why didn't you go down to Walmart, or why didn't you go over to Sears and buy that from them? It's easier. How about cheaper? A lot of times I find things cheaper.
Or they actually have inventory.
Yeah. The point I want to make with this slide again, it's efficient. Do the robots get sleepy? Are they hackable? What if I hack this drone or this warehouse or this automated system that's driving down the road beside you? Who's taking care of those things? This is all stuff that's happening today. I'm not talking about like far off into the future. This is today. Are you there? Are you studying to learn some of this? And when I say it that way, is this something that you desire to do? A lot of us have heard of something called blockchain. And back in 2017, blockchain was just the rage. Here, blockchain this, blockchain that, blockchain. It died down, right? How many of you all hear about blockchain today? You all hear about it? Yeah, it's like, where'd it go? I'll tell you where it went. There was a lot of people who jumped on board. They jumped on board to, make that fast dollar, but it didn't pan out that way. But what has happened is there's some frameworks that came out of that. There's some tools that have come out of that have survived that initial bubble of everybody trying to go do something. Now, I could sit here and describe all of these to you, but I want you to remember Hyperledger. And I want you to go through, I want you to look at the Hyperledger and what it actually does. It's basically allowing us to see how blockchain can be put into work for businesses. How can I take that technology and improve the workflow in my business, creating a safer business? I can tell you right now that's already in use in India. They have a problem. They have a few people over there, and it's hard to keep track of all those individuals. 2 years ago, they implemented information security through blockchain to help protect themselves against fraud. 2 years ago, what do you know about blockchain and how it's been implemented today? I can tell you my company is implementing it already in a lot of different ways. If you don't know what's going on in the world of blockchain, I would submit to you as a security professional or somebody looking to get into it, what is going to happen when this type of a system comes into your environment and you're asked to make sure it's secure, you're asked to audit, you're asked to do those things that you do. If you don't know, it's going to be hard to keep up. Well, you can't learn it tomorrow. You need to start today. The next slide I'm going to show you is the one that most people, they're like, well, how do I go about getting there? And this is how you go about getting there. You step back for a minute and you dream. You think to yourself, what do I want to do in the next 2 years, the next 5 years? Do I want to retire when I get to a certain age? You have to have a plan for that, right? If I want to be a security professional in a particular area, I need to do the research in it. I need to do what it takes to move forward in that particular area. It starts with a dream. Remember, I wanted to be a technician. I didn't want to stay a technician. I'm sure that each of you probably don't want to stay in the role you're in today. Some may, and that's fine. But for most of us, we want to do different things. We want different experiences. You have to set goals, and you have to dream a little bit. So right now, during this session, I want you to pull your phone out. I know you've got one. And I want you to write down 2 or 3 goals maybe. Maybe 1. Something that you would like to learn about. Okay? Go ahead. Start doing it. You're not going to embarrass me. Go ahead and start writing down something that you'd like to learn about. As I go through the presentation, maybe we'll give you some other ideas. As you write those things down, think about 3 steps it might take to get yourself moving towards that goal. 3 steps. And then the last thing I want to ask you to do during this session is to set a calendar event or a calendar reminder to act on one of those 3 things. And if you'll take the time to do that right now, what's going to happen is you're more likely to go ahead and start doing that than people who don't write it down. I've built 3 houses. Guess what I had to do? I had to start with the blueprints. I had to get the idea right. This is what you're doing when you start writing down what you want to do. There's a little fella that I met years ago who did the exact same thing I'm talking about. You all know who Whit Diffie is? Who knows? Can you have? Yeah. Who's Whit?
He's part of the team that created basically the framework of our modern cryptography that we use on the web.
Absolutely. Without his contributions, we wouldn't be in here today most likely because internet wouldn't exist and we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today. It's pretty interesting. He got a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's been some years back, right? Like 10 years ago. What I would suggest to you is this. What does it take to learn? What does it take to become an expert? There are individuals who tell us experience is 70% of knowledge. Experience. If you wrote down a goal and you're not working towards that goal, you're not figuring out a way to get education towards that goal, right? You're missing out on 70% of the knowledge base that you could have. It's true that you can go to a mentor, take a little class. And when I say take a little class, you take a 5-week course on how to do something and you have a project that you put together from it. You're going to get 20% because it's hands-on. You're getting a little bit of that. I can tell you there's people who think, I didn't go to that SANS class. And because I didn't go to that SANS class, it's formal training. They tell you everything. They feed it to you like a fire hose, right? Because I didn't go to that SANS class, I'm not qualified. What I'll submit to you is, I much rather have somebody who's taken the time to go to their home lab, and in their home lab, developed understanding, develop the skill set on their own or with friends so that they truly have the ability to do the security that they're thinking about doing. I can't tell you how many people that I've run into during interviews who come in and I'll ask them, what are you doing to improve yourself on a daily basis? And the answer is, well, I took this class back 6 months ago, and what have you done with it? The answer is, I haven't done anything. I'm like, why? You're missing the golden opportunity here. Each of us have people around us, and if we don't, we need to figure out how to make friends and get those folks close to us if you're wanting to advance your security career. You can't live in a vacuum and be a security professional. It doesn't work that way. Now, what if I told you Whit, after he got into his profession, anybody want to guess what Whit's doing today? Any guesses? Some of you have heard this before. No. Whit is working in China. What did he create? Encryption for the internet. He's working in China today, training students in universities over there. He's just a hippie who wanted to outdo the NSA, and he's had fun doing it. And now he's out enjoying life and doing something else that he wants to do. The point, again, I want to drive to you is you can have fun with this, but you've got to start. You've got to get motivated. And the motivation, you can't look at somebody else and blame them. It's got to start from within. So, are most of us in here security professionals? Can I see a raise of hands? Yeah? I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I do want to ask you some questions and see where you're at. Mobile device knowledge. Does everybody understand that computers are dying? The use of a laptop is going away. Now, is it going to go away completely? Probably not. There's going to be a handful of them out there. But I can tell you, just like that Uber-style car that we saw, I know a company that just recently announced you can make $23 an hour if you'll bring your car and go deliver packages for us. How is that possible? I can go deliver packages with my car. It's on a mobile device. This mobile device is enabling people who have a mobile device to go out and make money. If you, as a security practitioner, don't understand how mobile devices work, my question to you is, how can you secure them? Especially when your companies are starting to lean towards that. Now, I happen to be a big advocate of using, guess what operating system? On mobile. Android. Why? It's the most insecure thing out there, right? Or is it? Now, let's think about business for a minute. How many people outside of the United States have an iPhone?
Very small share.
Oh, so now I'm looking globally, right? Should I think in my security career about global expansion or just local? It's up to you, right? I'm going to tell you that you probably need to be thinking global because the SOC I work with, guess what? They don't work in a building anymore. They work from their homes. And fact is, they could probably work from a phone at some point or a tablet of some sort. What's going to keep the rest of the world from doing this? When you start talking about managed services, and I know we saw it during the keynote upstairs, the use of mobile devices has far surpassed the ability for asset management. And when I say that, I can't keep up with every single device. So maybe my security model needs to be a little different in making things at the server end a little more secure Maybe. Maybe I need to think about that zero trust model to a degree. But I can't understand what that end user in India who's on their Android device is going to be doing or what somebody else is doing to their system. I have to make sure my stuff is hard enough that theirs is not going to affect me. That's a little different way of looking at it. We're going back to the centralized model to a degree. So just want to keep those kinds of things in mind. Bring your own device. I don't know that we're ever going to get away from it. I think that what you're going to see is this is only going to increase, and as time goes on, companies aren't going to supply equipment to people. Companies are going to supply the opportunity, and people are going to do whatever they want to do. We'll have restrictions, but the fact is, if you're not thinking this way, you're living in yesterday. And you're going to be like the blacksmith who shoes horses. What did Henry Ford say? If I asked people what they want, they would have told me they want faster horses, not cars. What I'm telling you is the future of technology is not going to look like it did yesterday. And that's where we're living right now, a lot of us. So, with that, let's talk about SAS Solutions real quick. SAS Solutions. When I say SAS, everybody gets excited because it's really cool, right? It's in the cloud. I don't have to mess with it anymore. Well, let me tell you something about SAS. If you look at this slide, what does it tell you about power? What do you see here? What I'll tell you is, and it's not an apples to apples comparison necessarily, but can you imagine your company getting an application that turns around and in 19 days has 50 million users? 50 million. 19 days. Can you handle that? You guys got the servers ready? What's the answer? There's no way. It's already happened. My point is, if you're living back, 10 years ago, you gotta break that train of thought. You've got to get it to where you're thinking, how fast is business moving? You probably didn't think about this too much, but when you signed up for this conference, use SAS. Did you think about when you were putting your credentials in? Did you think about who's securing that? Did the guys here at the conference secure that so it's okay? I'm asking. Do you think they did? Who checked it out? It's one of the top 25 growing SAS applications out there. I was amazed by the diversity of people who are here today. And I was told it's because we used Eventbrite. Because we used it, it appealed to a different audience than what we always see at the InfoSec conference, which is pretty cool. If you're not into what's cool in SAS, as a security professional, I'm going to suggest that you start looking. Because the truth of the matter is, this is what we're going to be securing today and into the future. Wow. The top providers, everybody's familiar with AWS? Everybody's familiar with Azure, right? What I would suggest is that there's new technologies that are even coming to what we're familiar with from a standpoint of cloud security. I happen to be one of the lucky few that gets to go down to Florida every once in a while and help write test questions or exam questions for the certified cloud security practitioner or professional. Well, guess what? If you're not studying about the cloud and how the cloud functions and how it's actually different than the old-time infrastructure, and when I say that, if you're trying to say, oh, it's just outsourcing, you're missing the boat. Cloud is a totally different world of technology. If you haven't invested some time into studying how containers can be used to run an application for the split second that it's needed to process an order, and then it goes away, and then the logging that you would have to do to maintain what happens within that process, because you can't go back and get the machine and look at the logs on the machine. The machine's gone. There was never a machine. It was just a container. How do you keep up with that if you're not studying and keeping up with what's going on in the world of cloud? I can tell you that nobody in this room can keep up with all the technologies. Okay? These are things you can choose from. I will tell you that as we keep moving forward, there is a solution. There's a solution called artificial intelligence. I was recently at a meeting where somebody was talking about Google and Google doing some backstory. I don't know if you guys have heard of this technology or not. It's not like crazy great, but if you've ever used a SIM tool that does event management and you've done a search to figure out whether or not how do I say this? Whether or not an indicator of compromise is out there, and it takes 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 12 hours to produce the report that you need to get that. Well, the claim of backstory is they can do it in seconds. What's the definition of improvement? Faster, better, yeah, cheaper. Wow. If I could replace an entire technology, let's say of SIM, with a different technology that renders faster results, what if I could tie that into AI? What if that AI, how many of you have a home security system right now? I'm going to ask you that question. Does anybody have a home security system? Yeah. Do you think there's somebody monitoring a call center, right, waiting for your alarm to go off? Is that efficient? Probably not. What may they actually be doing? They may have AI running that in the background. I know that what we do in some of our technologies is we use AI for this purpose in looking for those kinds of anomalies. It's not everything. It's not the only answer. But what I would ask you is, how do you secure AI? How do you know what it's doing? If somebody came up to you and said, hey, I've got this new project, I need you to... If you're not studying about it a little bit now, you're not going to be ready when the opportunity knocks. You're not going to be the one who's going to be able to step up and say, this is what I know. Not all of us are pen testers, but I want to throw out to you Kali Linux. Is everybody fairly familiar with this? Knows what it is? What's the slogan here? Does anybody know the slogan for Kali? The quieter I become, the more I can hear. In other words, when I am really stealthy, I end up learning more about what's going on. I may be able to break a process, not just the technology. In working with Jeremy and some of our pen testing team, our motto was not break into a machine. Our motto is burn it to the ground. Burn the system to the ground. Because if I burn the system to the ground, guess what happens? Things change. But how can I safely burn something to the ground? I have to know the details about what I'm doing. I have to know how it functions. This is why web application security, this is why pen testing skill sets are just so hard to come by. Because you really have to know these things at a detailed level. What I would submit to you is you don't have to dive into Kali Linux and know everything there is to know about it. As a security practitioner, you need to know what pen testers do. You need to be able to take what their results are and be able to explain those to others so that they can understand the risk involved. And as a pen tester, if all they're doing is showing you a hole, they're not doing a service to your company. A pen tester should be giving resolution to the hole that they found so that it can be fixed. I don't know how many pen tests I've looked at from outside parties who've told me, you've got this problem. Well, that's great. Anybody can tell me I've got a problem, but tell me how to fix the problem. Go all the way. Don't just tell me, oh, I took all of your credit card numbers. Tell me, how can you help me fix so that my credit card numbers don't get taken by somebody else? And then ensure that you come back and test it to see that I did what you recommended. That should be written into every pen test. Not just that, hey, we pen tested and we checked out, you got these problems, go fix them. It drives me nuts when I see that happening in the industry. I'll get away from that. Cloud Security Alliance. Anybody heard of this? Yeah? Well, the Cloud Security Alliance came up with this list of security controls that they would have you to implement. They are an offshoot of the ISSA. Wow, look at that. Involvement in the ISSA gets you to this. They then teamed up with IC Squared, created the CCSP that I mentioned. And the CCSP is heavily tracking towards the control matrix that they have. That has been out, that particular certification. It came out in 2015. That's 4 years ago. If you're a cloud security professional, right, do you think anybody wants you? Do you think anybody would want somebody who knows about cloud security? Yeah, they want you. If you want to go down a path, this is a great path. And I'll be honest with you. If you have a CISP, this is like easy to get. My point, this is for career development. If you have your CISP and you don't have your cloud security professional, go ahead and get it. It's a very low-cost way to get your foot in the door, and opportunities that you would not imagine will be opened up to you. Okay? Everybody's probably familiar with the NIST framework. I'm not going to tell you what your dream is. What I will tell you is, here's a foundation that you can look at. And when you look at the framework, you've got very distinct areas you can go into. I've been extremely fortunate in the role that I've played in my past 17 years, that I've had the opportunity to be in almost every one of those areas. You know, when I say that, I volunteered to change my role. I didn't want to, it's great if I'm the pen test guy, the manager of the pen test team, or the manager of the vulnerability management group, or the web application security group. That's great. What do you know about risk management? What do you know about ID management? To be a well-rounded security professional, you need to have your finger across all of those. And what I would tell you, if you're looking to go into management at some point, I would highly suggest that you definitely get diversity in your career. With that, in the presentation, I've got some links. And they describe some things you're probably familiar with. They go into a little bit more detail with blockchain, Android fax, and things of that nature. I would suggest that you take the opportunity to research some of these items, the ones that you think are great. And if you've got passion for them, drive towards those. If you don't have passion for it, forget it. Because if you don't have passion in security, you're going to stop. You have to have passion because it's not something you do just to make money. You have to have a desire to learn and love the industry. And when I say it that way, the people who are disgruntled, the people who don't like their jobs, those are the ones that don't have passion. So if you're in that boat right now, my suggestion is dream a little dream. Put your head in the clouds. Keep your feet on the ground with a good solid plate. And with that, I thank you very kindly.